Well, my name's Braxton. Uh, I'd say for me, the last like month or so, no, probably the last couple months or so uh, of my addiction, I was pretty much, I was kind of stuck in this state where like I was pretty sure I was going to get in trouble with the law. Wasn't entirely sure, but either way, I had kind of subscribed to that idea and just decided that there's no way getting out of it at this point. Uh, and once it kind of got to that stage, there's uh, there was no communication with my family anymore, and they wouldn't really want much to do with me in that state of mind, anyways. And so, really, I was just pretty lost, dude. I was pretty lost, pretty scared. And just waiting for the time to come where I would just be physically taken away from drugs, really is what it was. Because the idea of getting clean, just by like my own desire, that I don't think I could have done that, I at least told myself I couldn't. So, because in the past, that's really how it's always been. I needed to get taken away from the drugs, physically. I had to be completely separated from them, locked up, put in a treatment center, something like that. And so that's what happened. I got locked up, bonded out, and went to treatment. Now I'm here.
So how much time you have clean?
Clean time. My clean date is October 30th, 23. So, coming up on 3.5 months, 4 months.
You say that like it's not that much. But what's the most amount you've ever had before?
Well, the most amount I've had without being locked up,
Yes, sir.
would have been, I think it would have been probably 6 months. And that was back in like 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How'd you come across that, Tom?
Well, that experience was similar. It's the same story. I got to the point where it was just so bad that, I determined I was either going to die or I was going to get taken from the drugs. And I got physically taken away from the drugs, got put in jail, got some felony charges, sat in jail for a while. I don't remember how long. It was a couple months, I think. And I was on drug court. And this is back where I'm from, Idaho. And, I did, I did pretty good on that program. For the first 6 months I was on it, I was phasing up and living in a sober living, and then I moved out into my own place. And then I started using again, and I was faking all the drug tests. I was passing all my drug tests when I was dirty, and they drug tested us like 3 to 5 times a week. So I was pretty committed to cheating that system, and I did it for like another year, and I phased up all the way to phase 4, to the point where I was pretty much, I want to say it was within a month. It was like 3 or 4 weeks I was away from graduating that program. And I just had some personal relationship issues. And I just started to use drugs even more. I was just using meth for most of the time because I could fake those drug tests the way that I was doing it, But when things got so bad and I started using heroin again, I couldn't fake those tests anymore. And I knew I wasn't going to get off of it. And so I went to court over Zoom. This is when this is when COVID was kind of keeping everybody out of courts and jails and all that. And so once a month, I was supposed to go to court on Zoom. And I showed up to the court session when I wasn't even supposed to be there. And I told them that I wanted to be done with the program, the drug court program, because I couldn't quit using drugs. And so, you know, that's they just said okay, and they did that. They put a warrant out, and then I ran for a little while and got arrested, and that's when I went and did a little bit of time.
In Idaho?
Yeah, it was in Idaho.
So you're a little bit away from home right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, my whole family. I don't want that sweat to be glistening. So my whole entire family lives in Idaho, except for my mom and my niece. My mom's raising my niece. My brother's incarcerated right now in Idaho. He has been most of her life. She's 9, I think, 9 or 10. And you know, when I was locked up in Idaho, my mom had moved out here. She got a job with a company out here. And she told me that when I got out that I could move out here and it'd be like a fresh start, you know. And so that's what I did. I got out and I had to stay in Idaho for, it was about a month or month and a half, because there was just an interstate compact that I was trying to do it the legal way, you know. I was trying to get my probation, parole, sent out to Tennessee. And in that month and a half I was waiting, I was using drugs. You know, I got out and used drugs pretty much. It was probably the first or second day I was out. And so by the time I finally was able to fly out here, I was already strung out on drugs, you know, and physically dependent on them. And so I just came out here, and for a while I had some folks from back home sending me stuff in the mail, because I, you know, didn't know where I could get it. And that lasted a while, but you know, my mom caught on to it pretty quick, and it was, you know, I don't even know how long. It wasn't long that I was out here that she'd fully caught on that I was just completely using drugs 100% again. You know, and once it gets to that stage with my family, it's, you know, their take on it is they don't do the whole baby the addict thing. They do the I don't want to say it's like tough love, but because that's just too cliche, but I guess you could put it like that. You know, if I'm going to be at the house with her and my niece, I got to be sober. And since I wasn't, I just, you know, I just met some people online after that out in Bristol. And so I moved out to Bristol, started running around there and making the same decisions that I was making back home until things escalated and they got to where they are now.
Seems like you talk about, when I asked you about like your last week of addiction, but it sounds like it's just a series of events that culminate to the same outcome. Ultimately, you work yourself into a position to residing to either death or incarceration in some way.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a man that sounds as smart as you speak would intelligently choose to live that way.
Yeah, it's.
So I find that curious.
No, and it's an interesting thing for sure, because you know, I've always kind of, so something that I would convince myself in my head, you know, because as an addict I want to be in control, you know, and things that I don't know the outcome of, those freak me out, and so I would like shift my perspective in my addicted brain, where I'd say, you you know, my life is chaos because that's the way I want it to be. That's the way it's destined to be. You know, I'm completely powerless and strung out on drugs because I'm choosing for that to happen. You know, like I would trick myself to somehow make myself believe I had some sort of control. You know, telling myself that, you know, I'm going through all of this stuff. Like if I'm gonna get locked up, it's because, you know, I told myself that like 6-7 months ago. I said, you know, I'm gonna end up in prison. Somebody's gonna tell on me or whatever. And I told myself that a while ago to prepare myself for when it happened.
It's almost like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
It's like I know I can't control the outcome of it, but I can control accepting my fate in some way.
Yeah. And like, and it's like, it's a dangerous mindset to get into for me.
Cost benefit, does it weigh out?
What's that?
The cost benefit. So this is what I have to pay in order to get these benefits, but it doesn't seem like it weighs out.
Right. You know, and so another thing too is, you know, I think being a man, part of being a man in my opinion, is to like overcome stuff, you know, overcome adversity and like make sacrifices every day of your life, work hard, you know, all that good stuff. And all that stuff to me is just, you know, I couldn't see myself committing to something, especially something that involves sobriety, you know, no drug use. I couldn't see myself committing to that. I was afraid that I'd fail. And so another kind of trick that I do is I just say, okay, well, I'll just do the addiction lifestyle, the drug lifestyle. I'll just do that as successfully as I can, you know?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is like, and I don't mean like a functional addict or anything like that. I mean like pretty much go as deep as you can into it.
I want to do it. I want to do it.
Yeah, like I just...
Seems like I used to say this thing to myself all the time, and I used to think it was so cool to say it. And I didn't, like, looking back on it, how, I guess in a way, like, mirrors some truth, but that my path to enlightenment was through self-destruction in some way. But what I didn't factor into that was everybody else that I was bringing and having to witness that self-destruction.
Right. Yeah. You know, and that's...
That's heavy.
And it's interesting you say that because yeah, like you know, the family would separate themselves from me. And for the first, I don't know, I mean, I've been an addict since I was probably about 14. I'm 28 now. I'd say up until I was maybe 23 or 24, I was super, super resentful at them for separating themselves from me. And then over a period of time and after a certain amount of scenarios that went down with my family that were traumatic for everybody involved, I started to see the wreckage that I was causing. And so somewhere in the midst of my addiction, probably around 24, 25 to now, I kind of just embraced the fact that they would separate themselves from me. Because it was just easier that way, you know. I didn't like to, you know, leave, you know, dinners with the family crying and me freaking out, or, you know, anything like that. It was always something. One thing I noticed too, when I was in jail, just this time, my mom was who bonded me out, and I was in there for like probably 3 or 4 weeks, and I had asked her, you know, if she was interested at all in bonding me out about a week into it, and she said maybe, you know, and I had never heard that before, you know. That was something new to me. I was like, you know, I didn't.
What's this maybe you speak?
Yeah, I was like, really, you know, and she kind of left me. She kind of like left me on the hook for a minute. Like she'd kind of, you know, we'll see what happens. Let's see if we can get you into treatment or something. And it was the day after Thanksgiving that she actually bonded me out. And I'm pretty sure, I haven't spoke to her about it, but I'm pretty sure she was just waiting so I didn't mess up Thanksgiving.
Oh man,
You know, and
that's some perspective. Isn't
yeah,
it?
and I hadn't, you know, and that didn't really click until until I was in treatment over Christmas, and you know, I called her and like I called her on Christmas and everything was cool. You know, she was happy, I was happy. We're talking over the phone, and I was like, wow, she seems so okay with the fact that I'm in treatment and not with her. You know, because I feel like it's a liability if I'm there when I'm in addiction, you know, and because she doesn't want anything bad to happen. She doesn't want any feelings getting hurt. She doesn't want me doing whatever I would be doing.
That's heavy.
Yeah, it was pretty, it was,
Do you feel like that you're better off served when you're away from society or the people that you claim to love? Do you think you're a liability?
No, but when I'm in addiction, yeah, for sure.
So what do you do today? Like, what are you doing like today, right now, to not be a liability?
Well, now that I'm sober, I really just try to go spend time with my family. Because when the drugs are not in the equation, I really don't seem to mess stuff up super bad. I know it seems real simple, but it's true. I mean, being off drugs, being in a program, being in sober living, going to treatment, all that stuff kind of together really contributes to me just becoming more of a dependable person. You know, like if I go over to my mom's today, she doesn't worry about the same stuff she used to worry about. She doesn't really worry about anything.
Nobody's gonna leave today crying.
Right? Yeah. There's gonna
Well,
be
at least, yeah.
yeah.
because of
No.
Braxton.
There's gonna be no chaos. You know, we're just gonna be able to spend some time together.
So we're building.
Yeah. We're rebuilding. There's a lot of lost time with my family that I need to make up for. I feel like I need to. I mean,
What's your
it's-
mantra these days?
what
If
is
you
my
have
ma-
one. If you had to have one.
You gotta edit out all the sweat wipes.
It'll be fun. I need it raw, dude.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I need it raw. Everybody will just think I use like a sun lamp.
So, my mantra, if I had one, I don't know if I necessarily have one in particular. I mean, I will say that the meetings, the program, the 12 steps, I do not believe I can stay sober without those. And I'm a firm believer in that. I believe that they work 100% of the time for the people who work them. You know, I know some people, you know, I've heard that in a lot of meetings where people can argue that or whatever, but, you know, I believe that if somebody tries the 12 steps and they fall short and they give up on them, I mean, they didn't work them the way that they're written out. And I do believe that if I stick to the 12 steps and I stay in that program, I don't think I can do it without it. I think that's a mandatory part of my recovery, for sure.
It seems like I mean, when you say that, I feel security for you, knowing that if I stay close in orbit to these 12 steps, this recovery community, whatever this is, things might be all right.
Yeah, well, it's just, you know, I've started to realize that I don't know, I feel at home when I'm there. You know, I think I've been a real drifter for the last however long. I don't feel like I really ever had a home that I could feel secure and safe in. You know, whether or not I actually had like an apartment or house or whatever, because I have had those things. But I've never actually felt welcome and at home and comfortable anywhere else as much as I do, like just at some of these meetings that I go to. You know, some of the DAA. I go to DAA and NA. You know, and that's just...
You may not be a bad person trying to be good. You may indeed be a sick person trying to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I fully believe that I have a diseased mind. I think that I react to substances differently than a non-addict. Some people say allergy. You know, some people say it's like an allergy. And, you know, I agree with that.
I think it's very commendable of you sitting where you're at, taking responsibility for the consequences of this disease. So I commend you for that.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate you doing this.